Hi everyone, and thank you for choosing the Invoice Tracker and Accounts Receivable dashboard. In this video, I will walk you through how to set up and use this template step by step. This dashboard is designed to help you track invoices and cash receipts across multiple years, generate clean accounts receivable aging reports, and monitor overdue balances to support payment collection. I will be using example data throughout this walkthrough so you can clearly see how everything works in practice. Before we begin, I want to mention protected cells. Some cells in this workbook are protected to prevent formulas and automated links from being changed. In the Google Sheets version, if you see a warning like this, click Cancel or X. If you're using the Excel version, those cells will be locked. You may see a similar message, but you will not be able to edit any protected cells. If you prefer stricter protections and want to avoid any accidental overrides, the Excel version may be the better option. With that, let's begin with the Inputs tab. Here you will enter your company name and preferred currency symbol. To the right is a section for your helper notes. There are guidance notes placed throughout the workbook to assist with setup. If you prefer a clean view for printing or presentation, you can hide all helper notes at once by checking the box here. In Excel, the helper notes work a little bit differently, and you will need to type yes in the space provided. Above is the section for reporting date, which we will cover later in this tutorial. Next are category inputs. Here you will see industry, invoice method, and payment terms. The first two sections are optional and can be used for your own tracking purposes. Industry represents the industries your customers operate in. You can enter up to 15 different industries. Invoice method refers to how you issue invoices to your customer. Here I have a few examples listed, such as email, mail, or online portal. Once you start using the template, do not edit existing category names. You can always add new categories in the blank rows provided. Each category must also have a unique name. If you don't need a category, simply clear the cell like I have done for invoice method. You'll see I only have 3 populated here. For this demonstration, I will leave the example categories as they are. The last one is payment terms. This is very important and a mandatory section. You can enter payment terms in text format as long as there is a numerical value included. The template will automatically extract the number of days to calculate invoice due dates. So for example, if I type in that 20, you'll see it automatically extracted 20 days to due, and this is used to calculate due dates. Here I've also typed due on receipt, and this template will automatically assign 0 days. I've included several example payment terms here that you can use, modify, or expand as needed. I strongly recommend reviewing this section carefully to ensure the numbers are being extracted correctly and to avoid making any changes once you start using the template. Now let's move on to the Customer Master Data tab. At the top, you will see the helper notes as we discussed previously. These notes highlight which cells are input cells and provide guidance throughout the workbook. Customer ID column is the only column that is not an input cell in this tab. Customer IDs are automatically generated and assigned a numerical value, allowing you to store up to 1,000 customers in this master log. Next is the status column. Each customer will have a status, and customers should not be deleted once they are added. If a customer is no longer active, do not delete them. Just change the status to inactive. Customer name is the next column, and this is a required field. Any field marked with an asterisk is mandatory. Next, you have optional fields such as contact name, contact email address, contact phone number, and billing address. These details automatically populate into customer level dashboards, so I do recommend that you use them. Next is the industry field. In the Inputs tab, we defined up to 15 industries. You can select from the drop-down menu here. In this example, I have selected retail and technology. Next is the payment terms, which is mandatory, and we defined in the Inputs tab. Payment terms drive all calculations, so this field must always be populated to ensure calculations work correctly. The last 3 are invoice method, credit limit, and default currency, which are optional inputs. The credit limit feature is particularly useful, and I will show you how it works later in the dashboard section. Now let's go ahead and go to the Invoice Log. The first column is transaction ID, which runs up to 10,000. This means your workbook can store up to 10,000 invoices across multiple years. You will notice that this tab only has 5 columns, which are white input cells. All other fields populate automatically based on formulas and lookups. So let's walk through an example together. I will select the drop-down menu, and I will see both customers that I had in the Customer Master Data tab, and I'm going to select customer ABC. Next, I will enter an invoice number. I will also input an invoice date. Please note that an invoice must be in a valid format. If you input an invalid format, this error will appear. So here I will input December 15th, 2025 for a total of $5,000. Sales tax rate is optional. If you enter a tax rate, tax amounts and total amounts will calculate automatically. In this example, I have inputted 5%. And now you will see all the gray fields populated automatically from the Customer Master Data and its calculations. One important field to note is the payment terms. This is populated to net 30 days from the Customer Master Data tab associated with this customer, and it has now calculated the due date automatically to January 14th, 2026, based on the invoice date of December 15th, 2025. Since today is February 1st, 2026, this is now classified as overdue since it passed the due date. Next is the days outstanding, and this represents the number of days since the invoice date. In this case, the invoice has been outstanding long enough to be placed in the 31 to 60 day bucket. I'm going to go ahead and add another example. But this one I will date for January 15th, 2026 for $2,500 and 5% tax rate. And you'll see here that the due date has automatically calculated to March 1st, 2026. And this has actually been classified as current since today is February 1st, 2026, and the due date has not passed. It's important to note that the overdue status, this column right here, is based on due date, while the aging bucket and the days outstanding are based on the invoice issue date. The final column that we haven't discussed is this amount received, and you'll see this will automatically populate from the cash log. We will cover that shortly in this tutorial. But before we do, let's go to the AR aging report. This report automatically summarizes all open invoices by customer, invoice number, invoice date, amount, and aging bucket. This is a key report for month-end close and collections. It provides a clean, standardized view of your receivables and shows how long exactly invoices have been outstanding for in these clear buckets. You do not need to edit this tab, and there are no inputs. It updates automatically based on your invoice log. Let's go into the annual dashboard. At the top, you will see key metrics. In our example, we entered 2 invoices. One was current and one was overdue. This dashboard automatically reflects this by splitting balances between the within due bucket and the overdue bucket. You'll also see overdue over 90 days category, but this is empty since we don't have any in this example. Next is this chart here, which is the top 10 overdue balances chart. This chart only includes customers with overdue invoices. Current status invoices do not appear here. In this example, we only had 1 overdue transaction, which is shown. Let's talk about this credit limit feature. If we go back to the Customer Master Data tab, you will see that customer ABC has a credit limit of $2,000. If we go back to the dashboard, this customer is flagged in red, indicating that the overdue balance exceeds the assigned credit limit. This feature helps you identify higher risk customers and supports decision making such as pausing services, tightening payment terms, or prioritizing collection follow-ups. To the right, you will see outstanding accounts receivable by industry and by aging bucket, which can help you understand concentration risk and payment trends. I'm going to now go back into a fully populated example. Your purchase will include this fully populated example, and you can access it through the link in the README tab. This example spans multiple years and shows how the bottom charts populate over time. At the bottom, you will see a trailing 15-month summary for both sales, accounts receivable, and overdue balances, and your sales and cash receipts. In this example, we have the report date, which is November 1st, 2025. So you'll see the example data actually goes back to September 2024. In your live file, the trailing 15-month period currently runs from December 2024 to February 2026. So I just toggled back to the live file that we were discussing. As you move into future months, this chart will automatically update based on the current date or the reporting date that you select. To the right is your expected cash by due date, and this chart serves as a short-term cash flow forecasting tool. It shows you how much cash you can expect to receive based on invoice due dates. Now let's go to the cash log. So to record a payment, you must select an invoice number that exists in your invoice log. So here I'm going to type a receipt date of January 15th, 2026, and I need to input a valid invoice number. If I input a invoice number that does not exist, you will see this error. So I will go ahead and type invoice 1. Once a valid invoice is selected, a customer name will automatically appear here. This acts as a validation check to ensure the payment is applied to the correct customer. Let's say we received a partial payment of $2,500. If I go back into the invoice log, you will see that that payment has been applied and the outstanding balance has been recalculated. Now let's say I received the rest of the payment on January 31st, 2026 for the same invoice. You'll see that this fully paid column has updated automatically. This feature helps to prevent overpayments and ensure you can clearly track partially paid invoices. And if I go back to the invoice log, you'll see that the balance outstanding is now 0. Now let's move on to the reporting date feature. I did skip this over briefly in the Inputs tab, but we're going to talk about it now. This allows you to view your accounts receivable as of a specific date, which is very useful for month-end reporting. Today is February 1st, 2026, so the file is currently live. If I set the reporting date to December 31st, 2025, the dashboard and AR aging report will update to reflect balances outstanding as of this date. If I go back into the invoice log, you will see that the balance outstanding has increased back to its original amount of $52.50. This is because the cash payment was collected in the cash log in January 2026, which is after the reporting date. You will also notice that the invoice status changed from overdue to current because as of December 31st, 2025, the invoice was not overdue yet. If you want to lock in a snapshot, you can always export all of your reports and paste values in your own Excel or Google Sheets for record keeping. So for example, this would work perfectly for your AR aging reports. Once you've cleared the reporting date field, the file will return to its live view. Now let's talk about the last two tabs, the customer dashboard and the sales tax reporting. The only input in the customer dashboard is the customer selection drop-down menu. You'll see both customers have populated here, so I will select customer ABC. It will pull all information from the customer master data here, including contact details, payment terms, and credit limits. All invoices for this customer will also populate below, along with their current status. In this case, this one was fully paid. This is useful when you're reviewing individual accounts or following up with customers. Last is the sales tax reporting. If you're using the sales tax functionality, you can enter your reporting year, and the template will summarize all sales and sales tax collected by month. This can be used for monthly, quarterly, or annual sales tax reporting. If you do not plan to use a sales tax reporting, simply do not enter a sales tax rate in the invoice log and you can hide this tab. This brings us to the end of the walkthrough. Once you get comfortable with this workflow, this template is easy to maintain and designed for multi-year use. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out at any time. Thank you again for your purchase, and I hope this template gives you confidence and clarity in managing your invoices and accounts receivable.